Another one of our top stories this morning is the sexual harassment allegations against Governor Andrew Cuomo. A new report from independent investigators offered vivid details about the claims against the New York Democrat. He's denying the findings amid growing calls for his resignation. Jerika Duncan reports.
This investigation has revealed conduct that corrodes the very fabric and character of our state government.
The explosive 165-page report, based on interviews with 179 people, alleges New York Governor Andrew Cuomo created a hostile work environment for women.
The independent investigation found that Governor Cuomo sexually harassed multiple women, many of whom were young women, by engaging in unwanted groping, kisses, hugging, and by making inappropriate comments.
11 women came forward, and investigators say they found all of them credible, including a New York State trooper who worked on Cuomo's security detail. The report says he sexually harassed her on a number of occasions by running his hand across her stomach, from her belly button to her hip, running his finger down her back, and making sexually suggestive comments.
Our investigation revealed that these were not isolated incidents. They were part of a pattern.
Another woman, identified as Executive Assistant Number 1, said the governor groped her. According to the report, in November, the governor hugged her and reached under her blouse and grabbed her breasts while at the executive mansion.
I want you to know directly from me that I never touched anyone inappropriately or made inappropriate sexual advances.
In a pre-recorded statement, the governor defended himself against all of the allegations.
The facts are much different than what has been portrayed.
The governor also showed photos hugging and kissing people of all genders, claiming that's how he conveys warmth.
I now understand that there are generational or cultural perspectives that, frankly, I hadn't fully appreciated. And I have learned from this.
I think that the governor is in for a lot of litigation civilly, perhaps something criminally, though we don't know that yet.
CBS News legal analyst Ricky Kleeman.
The Attorney General was very clear that she did her job is over. And it is up to any police department, any district attorney's office, if they see any of these allegations, to go forward if they choose to do so.
That was Jerika Duncan reporting now. So let us check in with Rebecca Roiphe. She's a CBS News legal contributor. She's also a former Manhattan prosecutor. Rebecca, we have questions. So first off, we know that there's a criminal investigation underway in Albany, but I think a lot of people are wondering why the independent investigation was not a criminal probe, and how likely it is that the governor will actually face criminal charges for some of this behavior.
In New York, the Attorney General has limited criminal jurisdiction over mostly white-collar crime and crimes that arise out of different agency referrals. So most of the criminal cases in New York are handled by local district attorneys, and that's what's going on here. So the Attorney General had a very specific job here, which was to conduct this report, do this independent investigation, and that's what has been completed. And now it's up to the, a bunch of different parties now what happens next. So whether these women decide to bring civil suits, whether individual district attorneys' offices choose to pursue any of these individual cases as criminal cases. Now, one thing to note about the difference between civil and criminal is that for criminal, first of all, intent matters, and also the criminal laws, the sexual abuse laws, require forcible touching of usually sexual parts. So some of the conduct alleged in this report would possibly count, but the vast majority of the things described really do make out of what looks like, if they are accurate and if they are true, a fairly serious civil claim, either under federal civil rights law or under the New York State human rights law, which both lay out sexual harassment type claims. There are also various types of tort claims that these women could bring.
So Governor Cuomo's attorney released a written response to the allegations. It included photos of the governor embracing and kissing several politicians. The governor also included similar photos in his taped video response. We played a little of it in Jerika's story. What is behind this strategy? What's your take on his response?
So, these were hard allegations to respond to, in part because there were so many of them. The conduct described was so consistent, and the report noted that there was a bunch of contemporaneous corroboration, meaning many of these women texted in real time or right afterward to describe the conduct. That makes it difficult to respond. So the governor, what he did was a sort of hodgepodge, a mix of different defenses. And, part of it was, well, I didn't do it, right? You heard in that recording that you played, I definitely didn't touch anybody, inappropriately. He denied some things, but he also made this claim of like, okay, if I did do it, there was nothing, I didn't mean to do it. There was nothing wrong with it. This is the way I treat everybody. I'm this kind of loving, warm Italian who expresses my affection this way. Now, given the nature of those allegations, I think that's a tough one because, these women are not accusing him of, warmly putting his arm around their shoulder or giving them a hug. And so I think, it was an interesting choice and perhaps not the best one, because I think it makes light in some ways of these allegations that seem fairly serious. So, he had to say something. Either he could have resigned and apologized, or he could have put a defense, and maybe this is one of his better ones, but it seems problematic to me and not particularly likely to survive or to succeed in either a court or in the court of public opinion.
So it's sort of interesting because in the weeks leading up to the release of the report, the governor started questioning the independence of the investigators. How could we see that play out now that the report has actually been released?
Right. And, this is part of the playbook of individuals who are accused, particularly powerful individuals, to note or try to undermine the nature of the investigation. We saw that with Trump and the Mueller report, Trump and the Manhattan District Attorney's investigation. One of the ways, especially if you're a politician, to say that, this is all wrong. Well, why? Why would it be wrong? Well, you have to kind of allege motive. And what the governor has done, similar to the former president, is to say, these were politically motivated. Here are people who are sitting in the wings trying to get my position, and they have political aspirations of their own. I think that his efforts to go after June Kim, who was one of the lead investigators, is likely to fail because, part of the thing is that these people who are career prosecutors or career public servants have built their reputation, keeping their head down and doing their work well. So I can see why some of these politicians might have political aspirations, but it seems, really far-fetched to suggest that these investigators who have proven themselves throughout their careers and their professions are biased in any particular way. And I think, his efforts to do so are fairly likely to fail, especially given the fact that, there are allegations in the report about how the cover-up for Cuomo sort of follows this similar pattern of bullying people into doing what he wants them to do, covering things up. And, in a way, this sort of fits into that pattern. So I don't know if that would be successful either. It doesn't seem so.
Rebecca Roiphe, thank you.
Thank you so much.